How's the game going on the opposite side of the world? Alright, to the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-loving crap out of that subscribe button, smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content, and as, of course, always check out Road of the King for more OCG info. I do cover a lot of stuff that I do end up seeing on the Twitter side of things, but it is always important to, stay up to this. So, for what's going on over here? Well, not much of their metagame has really changed. Their format has kind of reached the boring point to me at this point, but they do have, Transcend Drakes and things coming out here, and I believe it's, like 3-ish, 4-ish weeks, and then their next ban list will be ramping up here, and then their next course will be dropping in the middle of April. So where their metagame stands right now, it's going to be a lot of refinements and a lot of improvements to the current iterations to what they're doing here. So this is going to report on 143 top decks from 19 tournaments held in Japan, China, mainland, Taiwan, and the South Korea during 11 to February 15th. So your overall breakdown here, let's be honest here, you're not really surprised to see that tier has been the biggest part of their pie charts for how long at this point. Alright, like their metagame, I mean, I don't blame them at this point for sticking to this, because the fact they still have 6 main deck named tiers, their list for tier was a lot kinder to them than ours was. I mean, we took all the Ishizu cards, put them to 1. We took all of the main deck monsters, put them to 1. It wasn't a fun time, and of course, Kit Gallos got destroyed. Now, I also see down here that Purely had, 16? So there was 13 and then 3 Ishizu Purely. I will tell you, from what I am seeing, the Ishizu Purely variant has actually been kind of cool. It gives the deck, some defensive options against, tier up here, which has been, once again, the big problem deck of the format. Now, to nobody's surprise down here, there are 14 Bysteel Bysteel Synchro decks, aka Pepega Ruler Turbo. Now, this is the Chaos Ruler variant that we've talked so much about. Like, at this point in time, I'm just Chaos Rulered out. Like, I'm glad to see that card was banned on our side of the game, and we won't ever have to deal with this format, right? Like, we'll have a completely different game at this stage. And then, of course, we had 8.4 representation down here for Tri-Brigade. So of the Tri-Brigade variants, we had, 10 Sprite variants? Or 10 Sprite Tri-Brigade, 2 Scareclaw as well. So that's not an amazing flow chart by any stretch of the imagination, but it still is kind of showcasing the fact that, Scareclaw Tri-Brigade can still do something. Remember, they do have Visus of Stroud, which can make or break the deck at some points. I do think it is kind of some gimmicky stuff. And then that 10 Sprite Tri-Brigade, considering the fact that they left their Sprite package essentially destroyed on their last list, I'm not surprised about that. We also have 10 Kashtira. It amazes me every time we see this deck come back out here, because they destroyed their Kashtira variant. Alright, their Kashtira deck is literally limping. Fenrir and Unicorn are still at 1 over there. And it is so devastating. We also have 7 Adamancipator decks here. 4 were your Grass Super Heavy Samurai variants. We have 2 Ishizu Vernal Sith variants. And then, of course, we also have 1 Sprite Adamancipator as well. So, yeah, that's definitely something. And we're still limping here on 5 Bysteel Dragon Link, 5 Exosister. It amazes me that Exosister is even still functioning over there as a concept. And Runic also getting off the ground here as well. This is actually pretty impressive. Also, one of those being a Sky Striker and Eldritch Runic deck, and 3 regular versions. Okay. I do want to point out something else here. The fact that Super Heavy Samurai in its pure incarnation is still doing things, and that's actually kind of impressive to me. Yeah, we don't have Electromite here in the TCG. Hopefully that's not going to make much. Well, it stops the FTK variant, I guess, from being super consistent, but it's something that you really need to consider here, because those pendulum scales are busted, all right? I also had 3 branded, 3 Code Talker Math Mech. Man, the OCG loves Code Talker. They really do. We also had 3 Sprite. So these are just regular Sprite. Do keep in mind that we did have the other Sprite variations in the Dragon decks up top. So, and of course we had 1 Adventure Melfi Sprite. I feel like at this point they're just putting a whole bunch of engines together and ooh, look, I made a contraption. And then of course 2 Flaunderies. You had 2 Phantom Knights. 1 Minkanko Punk Danger Phantom Knight. Did I say that correctly? One Minkonko, Punk, Danger, Phantom Knights. Yeah, they're just putting together a bunch of engines at this point. Now, this is where, like, your pie chart gets kind of fun. Your one-of section is always an adventure to me. So we had one Adventure Synchro, one Adventure Virtual World, one Blackwing, Chaos, Chaos indeed. We had one Earth Machine, an Evil Eye, Infernoid, Ishizu Lightsworn, Ishizu Vernal Subnetria, one Magician, a Mathmech, Megalith, Scareclaw, Eldritch. I don't have any. Nope, I ain't got nothing on that one. We had one Shaddoll, one Sky Striker, a Sprite Nephthys, a Sword Soul Tenyi, and Valance down here, kind of backtracking a little bit in terms of numbers. You know, Valance is kind of doing things by the week, but it's actually kind of rolled back a little bit here. Now, let's get into the tier elements shenanigans part of this. So this thing has, first of all, like your variations and things to tier. This deck gets way more interesting. So interesting little things are both players were playing exactly the same build, perhaps signifying that this is the most optimized version for the current metagame. They're playing one Thrust, a Red Reboot, and one Droll and an Infinite Impermanence. And we'll talk about the side here in a second, but I just want to point out here, like, this Fenrir, and to some extent you will see the Unicorn kind of show up in some of these builds, but they've basically been taking advantage of King of the Swamp because, you know, making the Recalos matters all that much, and they are playing the Hell Shaddoll here as well, along with good old Shaddoll monsters, because, like, the big thing with this deck is you want to be able to make the window to be able to kind of detour the opponent. Being able to, how many floodgates can you put on the field? How many floodgates can we effectively try to limit the opponent through? And it's kind of like the biggest thing with this. Obviously, like, your Ishizu package in this deck is just the nuts. Even with, like, the small limitations that they did place on this, little slaps on the wrist, this deck just gains so much momentum as the days go by. So it's such a troublesome, like, thing. And then down here in the side deck, obviously, you are seeing your Bysteel package. I mean, at this point in time, like, the Bysteel's just, this deck is too good. Like, you just kick the Bysteels to the side, you're like, I don't have a choice to, like, really play these. And of course, they still do have Sprite Elf. I would not be surprised going into their next ban list if they actually see Sprite Elf actually disappear off of this. And then, of course, your side deck here, I mean, Thrust, the talents. These two have been a pretty big part of the OCG metagame, at least going hand in hand here for option trees. Now down here, Purely, oh boy. So went 7-1 at the, what was this, the Ogi Bento, yeah, 43 players, running an IP and an Apollousa in the extra deck, slowly being picked up by many Purely variants. Now what's very interesting about this is the variant that they're showcasing here is not playing the Volcanic Shell. Now, I do want to add a little bit to this. The Volcanic Shell package for this deck has made this deck so much better. Alright, like, while they are testing the waters for, like, being able to, like, IP into Apollousa is kind of cool the other day, and it is another option. So, IP Masquerader provides the option to go into Azalea or Apollousa during the opponent's turn if the opponent activated Exceed Encore to bounce your Purely Exceed monster, and then the Exceed materials were then special summoned, could be used for the IP Masquerader to make a bigger Apollousa. So they're playing the counter to the Exceed Encore by getting the chance to go into that. But that's just like one little innovation here. Like I said, the Volcanic Shell variation has just opened up the door to so many other ideas here that it's kind of crazy to me that they didn't mention at least that. Now, like I said, you have Crows. This whole deck is just an anti-meta monster aimed to, like, stop the current metagame. You're going to see that with your Dimensional Fissures there. There's your IP Masquerader to toggle on into the Apollousa for your defensive options during the opponent's turn. It is kind of cool to see the little things out here, though, that, like, they're developing play lines like that to counteract what's happening in the game. So I like that. And then, of course, the Vanity's Fiend here. I do want to point this out. that this little engine here, the little Vanity Fiends, being picked up massively, alright? The fact that all of your spell cards special summon, and then you're like, hey, want to see a magic trick, and then you just normal summon the Vanity Fiend. Your opponent's going to look around at you, and they're going to go, I don't want to duel you anymore. It's going to be a bad time all the way around. So that's definitely something that I wanted to point out here is like the Vanity Fiend has been sticking around. And then Bysteel Innovations, oh my gosh. Basically, I just want to point out here that Ready Fusion and Cyber's Gadget have been seeing more play, and the fact that with this variation they don't actually showcase that. But you've also been seeing these builds out here trying they're trying some really cheesy stuff with this deck. I mean, the whole deck is just how many level 10 synchros can I put on the field and laugh at my opponent? Like that's the Bysteel experience right now with this deck is just, oh boy, look, level 10 synchros, haha, Chaos Ruler's busted. And then your side deck is pretty standard here. So conclusion, Tier Elements leads on while Purely and Bysteel fall behind. Yep, that sounds about normal. So that's your weekly metagame report. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later on the day with well, some more interesting good stuff. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.